Today we're going to look at Chapter 9. The problem-solving technique is called solving an easier-related problem. So let's take a problem straight out of Chapter 9. The average of a group of K quiz scores is 31.8. The average of the first 10 is 24.3. Find the average of the remaining scores in terms of K. So we're looking for a formula involving K that'll tell us what the average of the leftover quiz scores are after 10 are subtracted. So what makes this problem hard? Well, the numbers are kind of awful, 31.8 and 24.3. And the big one is we don't know what K is. So instead, we're going to start, in order to see what's going on, we're going to start by solving an easier, similar problem. Suppose K is 40. The average of 40 quiz scores is 20. Instead of 31.8, just make it a nice 20. And the first 10 scores have an average of 15. So it's the same kind of problem, except now the numbers are simpler and we know exactly how many quizzes there are. And the question is asking us, what is the average of the remaining 30 quizzes? So we've got 40, so let's make sure we understand the question. We've got 40 quizzes total, and the average is 20. We break that the 40 quizzes into two groups. The first 10 with an average of 15, first 10 quizzes with an average score of 15, the remaining 30 quizzes, and we don't know their average, and that's what we want. So the average of 40 quizzes is 20. How do you find an average? Well, you add up all the quiz scores and divide by the number of quizzes. So if we know that the average of all 40 quizzes is 20, that tells us that the sum of all 40 quizzes divided by 40 is 20. So if the sum of the 40 divided by 40 is 20, then the sum of the 40 must be 40 times 20, or 800, because 800 divided by 40 is 20. So if you add up all 40 quiz scores, you get 800. In the same way, we see that the sum of the first 10 quiz scores must be 150 if their average is going to be 15. So the remaining 30 quiz scores, if you add up all the quizzes, the average must be 800 minus 150, which is 650. So take the total of 800 for all 40 quizzes and subtract the 150 from the first 10 quizzes. So there's 650 points in the remaining 30 quizzes. So the average of the remaining 30 must be 650 divided by 30, which is 21.7, and that's the answer to our easier related problem. The average of the remaining quiz scores is 21.7. So what did we do? We found the total quiz points from all the quizzes by taking the average and multiplying by the number of quizzes. And for the first 10 quizzes, we took the average for the first 10 and multiplied that by 10. And we subtract those two to get the total number of points on the remaining 30 quizzes, and then divided by 30 to get the average on the remaining 30. So now we're just going to do the same thing with our original problem. Total quiz points is the quiz average times the number of quizzes. So the total quiz points is 31.8 times K, the number of quizzes we have. It doesn't matter that we don't know what K is. That's what the average is. The average for the total times K. For the first 10 quizzes, well, we have 10 quizzes whose average is 24.3, so that must have been 243 points. Subtract those two, 31.8K minus 243, that's the total quiz points on the remaining, how many quizzes? Well, K minus 10. We had K total to begin with, and we're subtracting out the first 10 quizzes. So divide by 30 to get the average on the remaining 30 is how we did it for the other problem. So for this one, we take the 31.8K minus 243 and divide by K minus 10, and that's the average on the remaining quizzes. So this formula that we end up with is kind of gross. It's a fraction. It involves an unknown K, but it's the answer to the question. And when we looked at that easier related problem, it wasn't too bad.